Where will you be when the atomic bombs fall? Do not worry, friend. We here at Vault-Tec are prepared for your future. Congratulations are in order. You have been selected by your peers to be the overseer of your very own underground vault. Protect your family, your friends, serve a higher purpose in the wake of the oncoming nuclear winter. We've provided you with the most state-of-the-art training tool to prepare you for your upcoming task. What's that? You don't have a mobile telephone? Do not worry, friend. Here at Vault-Tec, we are always prepared for your future. We've made a special training tool now available for the latest in modern technology, the Nintendo Switch 3000. Now go, friend. Prepare for the future with my review of Fallout Shelter for the Nintendo Switch. As I just said in the little skit I wrote up today for the intro, Fallout Shelter is about you. The story is that you're the overseer of a new underground vault, and it's your job to, well, run the vault, bring in residents to live there, to work there, help maintain the vault, and expand, making it a better place for everyone. Now, story's pretty light in this game. You get a little intro cutscene at the beginning, basically explaining your role, and you don't get any more story until you actually unlock quests that you can send people on. They don't have a lot of groundbreaking stories, but there are little subplots that come up throughout the quest chain that you will learn on each quest. By gameplay, Fallout Shelter is what you would call a free-to-play, city-building simulation game with some RPG elements thrown into the mix. The basics of the game is that you are simulating creating your own vault, starting with only a couple rooms, creating a good environment to attract residents and expand. You bring in residents and you assign them jobs to keep the vault going. This is a huge cycle of needing resources for other resources. The vault needs power to run, so you bring in residents to generate power. Residents need living quarters, food, and water, so you make those facilities bring in more residents to work there, and then more residents to generate more power for all of these new areas. And this cycle keeps repeating, because the more residents you have, the more types of areas you can throw into your vault. And the more areas in your vault, the more power you need, and the more residents you need, and the more food and water you need. You can see where this is going. And that's where Fallout Shelter shows that among other simulation games, it is a very difficult game, especially at the start. Until you unlock more rooms to be able to actually have a radio signal to attract dwellers to your vault, you have to make do with what you have and throw John Doe and Jane Doe over into the living quarters every time you need another electrician, and wait until they hit it off, pop a baby out, and that baby grows up. But that's also a beautiful thing about this game. Most free-to-play games that originated on the mobile platform are set up to have incredibly fast and fun pacing as soon as the game starts, that eventually turns into incredibly slow pacing that can only be sped up through microtransactions, aka spending real money. Fallout Shelter does the opposite. Like a lot of simulation games, it has pretty slow pacing at the start where your resources are incredibly low and you're barely scraping by, but the more you set up and the longer you go by, the better your setup is and the faster the pacing gets, not only with generating all of your resources, but unlocking new rooms and features that give you a lot more variety in what you can do. So while most free-to-play games get slower and more repetitive the farther you go, Fallout Shelter gives you more to do with a faster pacing the farther you go. Granted, you can utilize microtransactions to speed things up a little bit, but with the pacing constantly increasing, outside of 10 to 12 hour wait times for really high-end quests, you don't ever really need to. But there is a little issue that the pacing creates. Fallout Shelter is a game that is meant to have constant attention. Everything is time-based, from gathering resources to event spawning to doing quests. And the game's got an internal clock that runs whether the game is turned on or not, and whether the console is turned on or not. So if you play the game and then go to work for 10 hours, when you come back and boot the game back up, there will be 12 hours of pretty much everything waiting for you. Gathering resources, questing, raider attacks, radroach infestations, fires in the vault, And if you leave the game alone for, say, weeks, you will come back to a vault filled with dead residents, requiring a hefty fee to revive them, because the game's meant for you to constantly oversee your vault, and that internal timer cannot be turned off. For the mobile platform, this made a lot of sense. For consoles, even though the Switch is a handheld, it's a little more tricky. But before I close this section out, one thing I really do like is that it's not just a sim game. Once you unlock the Overseer's office, you can send your vault dwellers on quests through the wasteland. On these quests, outside of little story arcs that you go through, you get to raid dungeons, doing active combat as well as looting a bunch of items and equipment to take back with you. Not only is this a lot of fun, especially compared to just going through your simulation cycle, but it helps pull you away from having to spend money on those microtransactions. Caps, the Fallout currency, are earned very slowly in your normal resource cycle. But when you go on quests, you get all kinds of junk and equipment that you can immediately sell, making that cap total soar into the skies, making enough money in an hour or two than you probably would have made otherwise in days or weeks of playing the game. Now, of course, all of this stuff comes down to you having a lot of different things you can do. There are a couple dozen different room types to unlock and at least a dozen quest chains to go through. So you're going to be busy for quite a while, even though each session probably is only going to be a few minutes long. Now, I've got nothing to say about presentation. The game looks great and the game plays great. What I do have something to say about is the control scheme. Now, I don't have a problem with the control scheme of the game. Everything's set up pretty nicely. You can use the button controls or the touch screen when you're in handheld mode. My problem is that every once in a while, when you tap the touch screen or move the left analog stick to select a different room, it will either not recognize it or it'll recognize a different room. Note that I said the left analog stick, so this is not a problem with the Pro Controller's D-pad, but with the game itself. It's not a huge problem, it's a minor inconvenience, but it can be an annoying one when you're in active combat and you're trying to heal your party members. And now let's get into battery life. One of the nicer things about this game, here are my battery times, from 100% to 0%. Maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 4 hours and 10 minutes. Maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 4 hours and 34 minutes. Lower brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 5 hours and 49 minutes. Lower brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 6 hours and 13 minutes. As I expected, you're going to get a lot of battery life out of this game. But again, it's strange because each session you do will probably only be a couple minutes long. Now, in conclusion, Fallout Shelter is a fun simulation for Fallout fans. Now, there are some little problems with the internal clock and some of the controls, but it's got a ton of content and great pacing, especially for a free-to-play game. Reviews to Go rates Fallout Shelter for the Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and remember, prepare for the future with Vault-Tec.